Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to discuss about composition components in react.js, and in this video we are going to discuss about how we are going to create the composition concepts, and also we are going to build a real-time example of composition concept. So let's get started and learn about what are composition components in react.js. So previous video we have discussed about how we are going to split the complex components into multiple components so that our code would look much readable and much easy to whenever we need to upgrade in the future, right? But now we are going to look about what are composition components. So you can see in the previous video we have written the code like this. We have this is our custom dialog component, and this is our student record component, and we are calling the student record component, passing the props. But this time we are going to discuss about what are composition components. So what are composition components actually? In React, we have written the previous components are they are all very highly specified components. We have bind the properties to all of these components, and we cannot make changes in these components quite easily. And they cannot be bind with every React component in our project. That makes sense because this is the custom dialog. These properties have student record, and if you go in the custom dialog component, it shows the props data of students, and we are showing all the data of the student record. And if we go in the app.js component, it actually showing the record of students record. So they are not the generic components. The composition components are generic component. Why? Because we make them to write the common components which can be bind with any type of component. They do not have any static data, or they do not have any uh, functionality which is highly specified for that particular component. So you need to understand before creating a composite component, you need to understand that that should be a generic component that can be bind with any of the component in our React project, right? So let's create a practical example of this. If I go and create a component, I will say composition component.js, right? And as you all know, we write function and component name, and then I'm going to say props. And if I need to import somewhere, I will write export default, right? And in this, I'm going to say return. That's what I will say div, and in div, I'm going to say props.children. This is the default field we get from the props. Let's assume if we are going to use this composition component somewhere in the student's record. So we will write all the HTML inside this component, and props.child mean the data of the student's record JS is actually having this would be inside this prop.children, right? So I will show you with practical example as well as and class. I need to make some CSS changes, and I will make it compose and component, right? So now we need to make some CSS classes here. Uh, I would name it same, so that would be easy to understand for all of you. Now I'm going to say what is my class name? That is compose component, and I will write like this dot. And here I'm going to say I will let's suppose you can see here I'm going to make a composite component of this border radius and box shadow, so that I will make a composite component, and wherever we are going to make this type of UI changes, like I need to make the div some border and some box shadow and some font styling, I will use that composite component throughout my application. I do not need to write again and again in the application. So let's go, and I will say border radius, and I would say 12, and then I will say box shadow, and box shadow would be 0, 1 pixel, and then right, and also I'm going to pass some font styling, right? So I need to call this CSS class. You all know how I'm going to use. I will write import and CSS class name. CSS class name is same, and I need to pass .css so that it could import this. So now my composite component is ready. What I all need to do, I need to use this composite component. So I'm going to use here on the student's record. What I'm going to do right now, a student number CSS. So I need to student number says I need to commit this. Need to make sure this is so. Okay, I need to commit this and radius 12. So now I'm going to use this generic component. So what I need to do here, I'm going to first import it. Import composite component. It's get imported, and now I'm going to use it. So now in place of div, I'm going to pass this composite component, right? So I will say composite component and here. So now if I go on the UI, it's little bit changed. Why? Why it's not the same? It's showing the composite component here, you can see, but it's not the same now like it was showing previously. The reason is that this CSS, this is a composite component, and this all data is actually what I'm talking about, the child.props. This is the child.props which whatever we pass here inside the composite component will be considered as a props.children to composite component, right? But when we pass the class names to our diffs, React understand. But when we pass the class name to React components, React do not understand. We need to make sure that how we can write the code that would be understandable for React as well as. So all we need to do here, I will write const classes, and I already told you that props is actually having all the properties classes inside that object. So I will say this pass space and props dot class name. So now this class name will have this thing, student name, CSS, and I'm going to pass here, right? So now let's go and see. So you can see here we have created one composite component which makes our border radius and box shadow and make the text italic. So this is the power of this composite components. We will write one time and we can use it as many times as we want to. If I make some font weight, I'm going to say lighter. So it's a bit lighter. It looks cool here now, right? So this composition component is one time written thing. We have written one time, but now we are going to use this composite component throughout our application. So let's take one more example. If I create one more test component, right? If I'm going to create one more text component and I'm going to say test component, right? I'm going to return div test component. I am test component, right? I'm going to say it and h2ref. Cool. So this is a test component. So let's assume if I need to use show this test component here, I'm going to say it from. I'm actually exporting this, right? So if I go here and if I look the output, so I'm a test component. So let me just add this composite component in the test component. So all I'm going to do is I'll go here and in place of diff, I will pass this. All I need to do is import it. So there's some errors. The name is incorrect. Actually, I need to pass this composite component here. Cool. So now if I'm going to look at it, this output, it's loading. It's taking some time this time. I think there's no issue. So here you can see the power of this composite component. The rounded radius, and then we have the box shadows. Border radius is 12, which looks cool, and font style is italic, which would also look good. And I also make the font to lighter. So this is all about the composite component. We write it once and we can use it with every React components. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good day, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you have any question, you can reach out to me in comments. Thank you.